You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Welcome to the Serious Growth Podcast, where the truth is told. Today we're actually airing this show from my office instead of my studio for the simple reason of all the things that's going on in our world today. So I'm practicing social distancing, which is really quite a hard thing for me to do. On today's show, we have Lorelei, let me get this right, Lorelei Sprott, is that correct?
Yes, that is. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming on to the show. And how are you today anyway?
I am just wonderful. And I, like you, am practicing the social distancing, which is really hard for me. So I'm feeling
Well, it is. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. I mean, I'm at the age now where a lot of times I think I hate everybody, but yet during these times, I don't want to be too far away from these people, you know? So it's kind of weird that way. I don't know. Okay, so owner and founder of Rockin' L Fitness and Nutrition. I want to get into that, but I see here that from an early age that you have been dedicated to helping others. Why is it that at an early age you were already dedicated to do that?
It's just the way, as my dad had said, I was hardwired.
I see.
My whole family have been servants and inventors and explorers and definitely athletes, and we're kind of cut from a different cloth, and I'm sure you understand that.
Yep.
And so I've just followed in family footsteps.
Okay. And you said you were here, it says here that you were helping your mom teach lip reading to the deaf.
Yes. Actually, my mother, she was a first-class concert violinist when she met my dad, and he was a country western singer. Both of them became teachers, him a professor at USC, and she became a music teacher. And then later on, when they cut the music programs in California, she went into speech therapy. And she would have me come out and help her in night classes to help the deaf learn how to lip read. And I always volunteered because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with these people.
So is that something that you learn and that you still know to this day?
Yeah, I do. I've had clients, believe it or not, in the pool that were deaf. And so I do know a little bit of sign, and I do know how to do arm gestures so that they can pull their attention back to me. And but yeah, I've had clients that were deaf, and I've even had, when I taught writing lessons, I had two writing students that were deaf, and I worked with them very effectively on horseback. And you just learn to adapt and overcome.
Yeah. I think it's an important life lesson right there, adapt and overcome, you know, because as you and I know, life is going to test you all the time, and you better be able to do some of those. But, you know, you have to have the skill to do it too. Have to have the tools to be able to do that. It's not really easy for some people, maybe most.
Yeah, no. My dad used to always say bad things are going to happen to you, and it's really not what happens to you, it's how you deal with it.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And it's harder to do than it's easier said than done, that's for sure. But I think it's spot on. I see here that you were the first of its kind. You created a peer group of a counseling program at your high school.
Yes, I did. My mother was a speech therapist at my high school, where I graduated early with honors. And my father, again, was a psychology professor, sociology at USC, and I grew up basically in the back of his classrooms.
Okay.
And he also did counseling in the evenings. You know, if you get a DUI or drug-related offense, it was my father that started all those programs, the counseling programs that work closely with the courts. So I saw the need at my high school with kids that were in the foster program or just from challenged situations, because many of them were in my mother's speech therapy classes, because, you know, obviously emotional and home problems led to sometimes speech impediments. And I really saw that there was a need. So I kind of started sort of a group, and then it grew from there. And then my dad and mom were like, hey, she's onto something here. So my mom actually got me like a little room on the side, and so we could meet, because some of these kids were teased a lot in school. And so it just gave us kind of a quiet place to go and just hang out.
Yeah. And then So then I see here also, and this happens to be a person that I actually know, Mike Sable. Tell us about that relationship with Mike Sable, how you guys work together.
Ah, First off, I have to say I absolutely love and adore this guy. And since you know him, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I first met him when I was working in an intern program through California Lutheran College. This is back in the 70s. And I went up there and I was accepted, and I was studying kinesiology and physiology with a minor in business. And so I went out there. Well, I had a work experience program at Costa Valley Spa where I was working with an orthopedist, and I walked in the door, and Mike was managing at the time. And this is way back when he was married to Lane Sable. I don't know if you knew him when he was married. And
I
he
think so.
ran the juice bar, and they had sandwiches and smoothies. And he actually looked at me, and I was coming through the door, and he goes, "I want those calves." And that was the first thing he said to me is, "I want your calves." But I do have some pretty big calves. I mean, at their peak, they were 15 and a half inches and really well
Wow.
cut.
Yeah.
So not a lot of women have got calves that size. But yeah,
I
Mike
think
and
it's,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I think as far as your calves, I think there were a lot of guys that said that about women. Because guys sometimes have weak calves. And it's like, it seemed like every woman that walks around has great calves. And we thought it was just because you guys wore heels. Did you just naturally have great calves, or did you wear heels and that's how you built them? Let's be honest.
Actually, no. I was a horsewoman and a surfer. So,
Ah,
but I learned English and hunter hack, so my legs were flexed an awful lot. Your whole body area is on the balls of your feet.
yeah.
And so I was riding horses and working horses every day. I didn't start wearing high-heeled shoes until I started modeling professionally. And then my dad put me in modeling school because I was too much of a tomboy. And so he figured that would girlify me.
Yeah. So how did you get the nickname Lady Schwarzenegger?
Just, I think, basically my guys, Mike Sable, because he was a trainer and he was training me to be a female bodybuilder,
Okay.
and just really busted my butt every chance he got at the club. And I'd left this college to pursue my career in fitness, so I never did get a degree. I got hands-on training. But he, drugged me around to different shows, and I met Wally Boyko and was at his house for a New Year's Eve party. And that's where everybody kind of said, "Boy, she's like a Lady Schwarzenegger, with the legs and
Ah,
everything else." Would have loved to have had just some of the photographs from that party. Maybe not all of them, but some of them.
I know. There's a lot of these guys. I recognize these guys. That's quite a group of people.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just very blessed. When you think about divine intervention, it's like, Leo, every moment of my life has led me up to this time and space, and I'm sure you agree as well in your life with
I
your
do.
having your health issues and your strokes, and God
Yeah.
bless you coming back from all that. But all of these terrible things that happen to you or people that have come into your life, it's really meant to hone your skills and to develop you as an individual that you can then share and help other people.
Yeah. And it's really hard to understand that sometimes, especially when you're going through crap and stress and adversity and all that. But it really does seem to work out that way. I totally agree with that. It's being able to trust that, that part of it. Um, it's kind of the challenge. But I think you're exactly 100% right. I see here that I assume that did you meet Jack LaLanne?
I actually worked for him.
Oh my. I went to a Legends dinner, they called it. I can't tell you when. It's probably late, maybe 88, 82, 88, something like that, maybe 90s. And this was Vince Gironda was there. Jack LaLanne was there. Bill Pearl. Oh my God. I mean, that was amazing to see all these guys there. But you worked for Jack LaLanne. What were you doing what did you do for him?
Well, actually, I got quite a reputation. I didn't realize it, but I got quite a reputation very quickly working in the industry. And I love school. I was at Coast and Valley Spa under the nose of Mike Sable, who was just amazing. And then Jack LaLanne, they more or less snatched me up from Coast and Valley Spa. And I worked for Jack LaLanne in the fact that I was an instructor and a trainer at his facility in Thousand Oaks, California. In fact, I ran into Elaine LaLanne just 2 years ago at the Fit Expo. I cried. It was just like, wow. To
Yeah.
see her again just brought back so many memories. And I spotted her from down the way because she just, you know, when you meet somebody that makes that kind of an impression on you.
Yeah.
She's 94 years old, but she told me that Thousand Oaks was his favorite club. And so he was there. He'd pop in quite a bit, and I just adored him. Wasn't so warm and fuzzy about his manager there, who is, you know, a little bit of a womanizer, but there was a lot of that going on in all the industries in those days.
Yeah.
But I just really loved working for Jack himself. And then from there, I went on and was offered a better position at Nautilus Sports Medical and just kind of moved up the ladder from there.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing that stood out for me was with Jack anyway, was I think at that time he was like, if I'm not wrong, 75 years old. And that guy had more energy than anybody that was in that damn building. I mean, it was incredible, the kind of energy that man had. But, you know, of course, a lot of these things, they mean more to you as the years go by, you know, how special it was to have some of these guys, you know, that were at that event. It's just something amazing. Okay, so tell me, how did you get, it says here you're a weeder girl. So how did that, okay, so you worked, did you work for Weeder before Jack or after that?
No, it wasn't really like, I mean, back in those days, you didn't really officially work for, it's kind of like Rick Drayson and you. In the early days of the wrestling, those guys really didn't get paid, and they got pretty beat up. You know, they traveled all over and everything. And it's like I was known as being a Weeder girl just because I was featured in a Weeder magazine with one of their I'm trying to think, I think it was Paramount Equipment, but I modeled for some of the equipment. And this is back in the days of the spandex, which, oh, Leo, I have to tell you, I hated those spandex and the thong spandex days. And oh, Lord, I was never so happy to see sweats come in. But just the fact that I had appeared in the magazines and everything and was running around with Mike Sable and Jack LaLanne, they just pretty much adopted me in, going, oh, yeah, there's a Weeder girl, you know, because I had been in the magazine.
Yeah. Okay. And then when did you get involved with, you have a product here that we want to talk about, and I'd like you to start telling us about that product. I talked to you before you came on the show, and I was highly interested in the things you were saying. So why don't you let our viewers know what that all entails?
Well, the equipment that I actually have a couple different lines, and one is actually, it's direct from Dan Soloway, PhD, exercise physiology. He developed a system called Hydrotone Fitness Systems. It was a sports system that even now is utilized by Olympic and pro ball clubs. And the actual Hydrotone company now is no longer producing equipment. And so with Dan's direction and aid is I'm going to be relaunching an extremely similar product. But I also hold a master's level in Hydrotone. When I did therapeutic riding and horse therapy and teaching people to be better horse people, I studied the Feldenkrais method and the Alexander technique, which is mind, body, and awareness. And I approached it that when you ride horses, you're an athlete. So I kind of put the two and two together, the mind, body, and awareness, and the training and weightlifting in the water, as well as my land training that I learned the principles through Nautilus, which is, you know, with Nautilus, it's the cable variable weight system. And then your normal weightlifting, which is unilateral, it's just one dimensional. It's gravity straight up and straight down, whereas Nautilus gave you the variable. So I've taken all of these different facets and more or less morphed them all together. And that's where I've come up with the Aquatone training system. very exciting.
So this system that you're talking about, obviously, the title kind of says what it is, but you're training people then in water. Is that correct?
Exactly. But it's
Okay.
not just training people in the water. There are so many systems out there through, I won't name a bunch of names or anything, but there's a lot of different systems out there that they're only getting 50% of the equation. My background comes, as you could say, from my father being a professor at USC. I'm very scientifically minded. Maybe, Leo, that's why I'm still single. Laugh, laugh, laugh. I get very analytical with things, and looking at it as a science-based product. In the water, you have a three-dimensional pull. So when you're on land, you have your push days, you have your pull days, and so you have to stagger everything. When you train with this equipment in the water, because it amplifies the resistance both ways, both in the push and the pull. And what I mean by that is water has got more viscosity than air. You're not dealing with gravity, but you have the viscosity, which is the density of the water. So you have to push that water out of the way. The stronger you are, therefore, the faster you're going to be able to move that water. However, what most people don't realize is back drag, which is the backfill of the water, which gives you that suction, which is your pull from behind, which is done at exactly the same time. So you've got the pushing and the pulling taking place at the same exact time. Then you add into, you've got to actually figure out your BMI because fat floats. So you've got to place yourself at the proper elevation, because it's not just, hey, I'm going to get in the water and I'm going to move. No, you have to be able to calculate the proper elevation to do each exercise based upon the user's individual and quite unique BMI. It's your bone density, it's your muscle mass, it's amount of body fat. And so all of that is taken into consideration, and you could adjust your elevation based upon the addition of body fat, decrease of body fat, addition of muscle mass, and you get it from there. Different persons as well, you've got different bone densities. So you might have two people that have very similar body fat context, but you've got one person who could be elderly and somebody who's younger, that their bone density is different. So again, you're going to have to adjust the water elevation so that the user is able to develop at the best pace for them. But once again, Leo, it really offers you three-dimensional training. Also, you don't have that pull of gravity, which the water is going to give you a built-in traction, so it's going to relieve your spine and your joints instantly, allowing better blood flow and flow from the nervous system. So do you see just the whole dynamic of that is just so exciting?
Yeah, and the question I have, if you could paint a picture, I think what you're telling me is awesome stuff. But my question then would be, so am I in a pool when I'm doing this training, or is there a certain, like a capsule or something that I am suspended in? If you could paint a picture for the viewer or the audience here that's listening, I'd like to know more about that.
You know, that's a very good question. I really love the way you put that together visually and verbally. No, you're not in a capsule. You're in any body of water. It could be a pool, it could be a lake. It could even be like not a fast running river, but you know, something that's a little bit of a gentle current. You could be tied off to a boat or a pier. But again, it's utilizing the water, but you're going to be training at about midriff deep in the water, because there's a lot of squatting. The inception of the hydrotone was actually through Dan Soloway's love of martial arts, if that's pricking any of your viewers' ears right now. And so there's a lot of like the horse pose and staggered pose, boxing poses that are implemented in the moves in order for stability, greater stability. And so you don't want to be standing straight up and down with the water up too high, because as you get to moving around, your body is going to, what I call pitch. You'll literally lift up off the floor, which is what I don't want to see my clients do. I want to see them with their feet expanded out on the ground. We're created to be barefoot, not to be running around in shoes. So you're actually in a pool. Now, I do have suspended work. So, yeah, you could be with an aqua jogger, which I have a full line of aqua joggers, which they suspend you. They strap around your midriff, much like a pool float. And but they help to suspend you in the water, so that way you have full ambulatory movement. You're going to have to stabilize yourself and stay upright, so you don't fall forward, fall backwards. And or you do what I call the stability work, and that's where you're actually standing, where your feet are firmly planted at the pool's floor, and you're training that way.
Okay, so now in my background, I've learned that the body becomes its function. It's Wolff's Law, you probably know that. And so you need to be very specific to an objective. This kind of training that you're talking about in the water, it sounds definitely like it's something that you can use to recover from something. But I wonder, how applicable is it to train in the water? Like, I guess one of the questions I would ask is, can you train an athlete for, let's just say that's a football player, can you train an athlete in the water? And if so, because it's in the water and because they're going to be playing the football game on turf, how does that translate? Again, keeping in mind that the body becomes its function, how does that really help the athlete? Like for me, I know that if I have a football player, to be very specific to the objective, not only do I train him for the sport that he's in or she in, but I train him for the position of the sport. So again, I'm wondering how you take water training and make that to where it becomes something very useful on the playing field. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. And again, Leo, you are spot on. Great question. Professional sports teams have been utilizing this system, and I'll name just a few: the Minnesota Vikings, the LA Dodgers, John McEnroe, Andre Agassi, 49ers, Chicago White Sox, St. Louis Cardinals, Miami Dolphins, Dallas Cowboys, and more. With swim teams, you've got the U.S. Olympic swim team and the water polo team that have also utilized this system. And what it does is you duplicate, as an athlete and as a trainer, you would duplicate normal land-based movement patterns with this equipment. Just if you have to modify it a little bit, because these things can put an awful lot of torque on the wrists. So a golfer or a tennis player, it actually slows down the movement, but it puts so much resistance on the movement that the brain is allowed to perfect the movement while building more strength, because you're not able to get that momentum going. You don't have that momentum, and you have exactly in that movement. You tell me if you could sit there and you could do side drills, or you could do some of these running drills or throwing drills, or like baseball, golf, tennis, where you don't have that pull of gravity trying to pull you down. Well, if you're hitting a golf ball or if you're hitting a tennis ball, you're not really dealing with gravity. You want to shoot that ball out from point A to point B, which is usually not straight up or down. So this gives you better strength, that once you get out of the water, it is like nothing. It's like it's light as a feather, but you've got that strength and that muscle movement pattern with the strength and the explosion behind it, because now you don't have that water that's pushing and pulling you backwards. But the brain and the body knows exactly what to do, and all of a sudden you're in kind of in my opinion, a light as a feather mode. So to me, it just amplifies everything, and you don't have the ability to hurt yourself. Like, you're not going to fall down.
Right. I can see, because of the fact that you're mimicking or emulating in a way what the athlete's doing on the field, I could see how that would directly transfer over onto the field. But there would still be which again, I'm not saying that, I'm just simply, I'm this is my observation, if you will. I would think that when the athlete is in their sport and also doing the water training, I would think there would be less of a, it wouldn't take long at all for the body to adapt to that, to transcend. Because I'm kind of thinking like, this might be a really bad analogy, but like when you get on a treadmill, for example, and you know how you, after you walk on a treadmill and then you step on the ground, how that feels really weird for just a minute?
Yes.
That's kind of what I almost think, because you're saying when they get out of the water, all of a sudden what they were doing on the field before becomes really light. Well, to me, it sounds like that would change, like, for example, a baseball, a hitter, that would change their swing because, I mean, now all of a sudden they're going to be quicker to the ball. I don't know. I may be off base here. These are just things that come to my mind that I think about whether or not if it would be an issue on the field. I mean, I'm not saying that it would be, just, again, an observation. But I would think that if an athlete is playing his sport and doing this training together, I don't think it would be a major deal at all. I think that's my opinion.
Well, it is actually, it makes them a more powerful athlete without the default of injury. Because there's, as you know, there's so many times you can get injured just practicing.
Oh, yeah.
And in the sport. And this way, your body is not overheating. You're actually able to effectively work out a little bit longer. By no means does this replace your land-based training, but it is an absolutely perfect component to add to complement the land-based training that you have, just to make you better at your sport.
Yeah, it sounds like it. How many days a week do you train athletes, for example? I'll stick with athletes because I'm an athlete and I'm interested in that area. How many days a week would you train somebody like this if you're being very sports specific?
Well, when it comes to running, I like to see my athletes, really running in the water, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. I like to see them running, and I do a combination of running and core work. Literally, you're doing like a HIIT interval program. You're doing, like, say, 4 sets of 30, and you're sprinting, very specific with the legs. And I tell you, when you're sprinting in the water, your body's gonna get tired really fast because you've got resistance both ways.
Right, that makes sense.
Exactly. And then but then when you're chest deep in the water, due to the PSI, that's the water pressure in the lower extremities, you're actually getting 20% better oxygenation of your blood. Now, this is better for your heart, it's better for your lungs, and that oxygen is also being flushed up into your brain, which a lot of people don't even go that far. They think, oh, it's good for my heart and my lungs. Well, the brain also just thrives on oxygen. And so your entire body is being flushed with, and what does oxygen do? Like blood, it brings positive things into the body, but it also takes bad things out. So it's just automatically you're cleansing, you're flushing, you're purging your body from things that you don't need in there, but at the same time, you're bringing in a nice, fresh source of oxygen.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
It does. And and with better oxygenation, with more blood flow, because again, you're not overheating. So the body is not in that stress mode.
Right.
I find that people come in and they run in the water, and I'll have them sprinting out. And I think the only time, because I'm working on aquathons, which is marathon running in the water, and I wanted to challenge myself and see how long I could run. The only time that I myself experienced where when I got out of the water, it was really difficult, was when I had actually spent an hour and a half just doing a long stride run, more like a marathon run. And I literally ran. I had different groups of people that came in and ran with me for 20 minutes at a time. But I stayed in the water for an hour and a half. And when I got out of that pool, my legs were like spaghetti noodles.
Yeah.
And I felt my butt for the next 3 days. But other than that, I didn't have the same kind of muscle soreness that you get in lifting weights.
Yeah. The amount of time that you spend with each session, how long does that last?
It's only really 20 minutes. It's 20, 25 minutes. When the hydrotone came out, because of the push and pull, you're getting two groups, like you're getting your biceps and triceps, you're getting your chest and your back, your quads and your hamstrings, at exactly the same time. There is no gravity, just drop, what I call the gravity drop.
Yeah.
So you're having to really exert yourself each way. The key is the amount of intensity, because you can slack up. You grab 50 pounds, you know, Leo, you're going to have to lift 50 pounds. Well, if you grab this weight, and if you want to be able to push 50 pounds of pressure, you're going to have to meet it with the intensity for lifting and pushing that 50 pounds. You don't want to go at it like you're having a little day at the park and a nice little stroll.
Yeah.
You want to really get after it and harness your own intensity. And that's the one component where psychology really plays in, is you've really got to master your mind and you've got to really focus. But again, Leo, as you know, the best athletes, the best creators, the best inventions are done from people that really focus on the task at hand.
Yeah. So are you like when this is going on, you're training your athletes, do you train one person at a time, or are you able to train in small groups? What does that look like?
I do. It really depends on the individual. If the person is recuperating from like a stroke or a brain injury, I'm in the water with them because I literally help them learn how to walk and to move again. Sometimes I act as their motor skills, and then I'm just drawing them along with me, much like a person with a string puppet. I'm just moving them along and having them make total eye contact at me and just enjoying the movement until that brain starts kick firing back with the body, because it will. It will. And then with an athlete, I'm usually up on deck, so that way and I can work with them individually, small group or larger groups. When I taught at UNLV, that's a university in Las Vegas at the Wellness Center, I had anywhere from, a half a dozen people to 24 people, as well as at other clubs between Oklahoma, Arizona, Nevada, and California. I've had class sizes over 50. And on the fly, I can see where somebody's really being challenged, and I can direct them just for a little bit of alteration in their movement. The water doesn't lie. To a good trainer, the water doesn't lie. So you could skillfully and very quickly see where there's muscular imbalances. And that's what we go to correct in the water. And it's just so exciting to see what we could do.
No, it sounds amazing. I'm getting back to this thing, like when you're in the water like that with a large group. Like, for example, in my facility here, I have a small training studio. One of the things that I do is I do these I set these micro circuits up to train clients in a small group. The thing that I have a problem with in my industry, I call it follow the leader training. And it's okay, but you have these big groups that are just following the same, everybody's doing the same exercise training program. Now, I know that when you do large groups like that, you're not going to get real specific results for everybody because everybody's doing the same thing. And we all know that if everybody trained like Arnold Schwarzenegger, they wouldn't look like them or like him. So when you're in the water like that with a lot of people, now maybe like, for example, when I have somebody, so these micro circuits that I have, even though you're in a group like with 2 other people or 3 other people, the way that I've got it set up, because I'm the trainer in this case, like you are, is each one of those people have their own training program that they're doing based on the results that they want. Okay, now, if you're coming in to do a fitness program, Lorelei, well, you're pretty much going to be, I can put you pretty much on the same program because you're wanting the same result. But when you have 50 people or a big group of people in the water like that,
I just lost your audio.
looking for strengths and weaknesses that the people have, because you said something about the water doesn't lie. I don't understand. I'm just trying to figure out how, when you have a lot of people like that, what's the end game for them, the goal in that case?
Again, another great question. I don't like teaching groups as big as 50, but at some of the facilities I work out of, they don't have a cutoff. I've worked at facilities where they'll have a cutoff for my class at 30, and they will only let in the first 30 people. And incidentally, there will be a line waiting out front or people showing up a half an hour early to make sure that they get into a class. I like the smaller classes and the smaller groups because, again, you could work on everybody individually. But it's just like you have your basic moves, like you have your hammer, you've got your tricep moves, your bicep moves, your chest, your back. The water adapts to each person based on their body type and their skill level. Like I could have a guy that is right next door to a woman, and they're both moving the water in a completely different synergistic pattern because the water adapts to what their body is capable of doing.
Right.
And you'll see where different blocks of people will kind of all sort of pal up together. Like I would say, this is the Kragan corner. These are the people that, if you don't mind your hair getting wet, your hair is going to get wet because these guys are really pushing that water around and making some serious waves. And then you get the group of people that it's more like a gentle current that they can move around, but they can see how they're moving that current, that, you know, how their symmetry is in their movements. Does that kind of help you make some sense?
Yeah, it actually does.
So they could be doing, yeah, so it's like we all walk correctly. We all walk, we place heel toe, and we walk the same. We have an arm swing. We have a neutral spine position, your shoulders, your head, everything. We all walk really identically, or do we? Yeah. And each of us have our own style and our own game. And it's the same thing that I love about this is your body, you do have sort of a gray area that you can adapt for. Say if you've got a really short torso, long torso, if you're short in the legs, long in the legs, you know, if you've got some real variables with your body type and your body structure, you can easily, body is going to adapt just to push that water. But your brain, it's like when an athlete throws that basketball and the next time he goes to throw it, you as the person, you're not thinking, okay, I got to move my hand off 3 degrees and bring my elbow up 2 degrees so I can make that ball closer to the basket. No, it's your brain that automatically does that. It's the same thing that happens in the water. So even though people can look and go, wow, it looks like everybody's doing the same thing, they're really not.
Yeah, I can see that now.
Because each body is.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying now based on that. And with regard to, now, I'm sort of relating what I do here and what I'm known for as a trainer is my unique selling proposition is understanding what I call the 3 components that are responsible for changing the body in the most efficient way. No, and the differences then become what is your specific goal, okay? And so I guess my question is, you're training the people in the water, so that to me would be me training my client on the floor with weights. Is there anything else that you do besides the water training to add on, you know, to make the effect of being in the water even better? In other words, do you do cardio, or is that be a part of what you're doing in the water? And how do you address nutrition in the overall scheme of things?
Leo, I love you. You know, if I was there, I'd give you a big fat hug right now. You're a great interviewer. I am loving this. Great question again. I have what I call the 4 pillars. And like you said, you have your 3 basic components, which I'd love to hear what those are. But I have my 4 basic components. And then, of course, because I do everything, again, very analytically, and I knock them down like dominoes. But I stack them like dominoes. When I click that first one, it's perfection in motion. And it works every time. It's very results driven. I have 4 key components that are a basic that I start with all my beginners. And the first one is, and it's really in the name of Rockinell Fitness and Nutrition. But the first part is trust the process. You need to really, really trust the process and know that what you're doing, you want to apply yourself, you want to listen, you want to learn. But there's a time when you got to kind of, and I'm not going to get all religious, and we got to let go, let God. You got to say, okay, you got to listen to your inner body and your intuition, okay? Because your body has got this built-in intuition that says, it's like when you've got your dashboard that tells you everything you need to know before you make this trip. So listen to your body. I tell people, listen to your body, trust the process. That's number one. Second, you want to feed the need. So you want to feed the need not only with food you're putting in your body, but things you're putting in your mind. If you're going to load your mind up with a bunch of toxic crap and then expect to get a great workout when you go into the gym or the pool or even recover, it's not going to happen. I've had some colleagues and friends, and I'm sure you have too, that literally died young of a heart attack, and they were the most body perfect fit people on the planet, but they micromanaged everything and their life was just a hot mess.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to feed the need. Not only they did it with food, but they didn't know how to feed the need with themselves spiritually, whether it's meditating or reading or self-improvement. You got to feed the need all the way around. And then the next one is to do the work. So you trust the process, feed the need, because the first thing you got to do, if you're not eating the right food, all the work is going to do you nothing. So you got to do the work, which means you got to do the cardio, you got to hit the weights, you got to do your program, the actual physical part of the program. And then the fourth part, which is just as important as everything else, you need to rest, restore, and recuperate. Because your cells, all they want to do is replenish, they want to restore, they want to grow. The only time that those guys can really do the work, it's kind of like a plant that shuts down so the cleaning people can come in and the mechanic can come in and fix things, is when there's no work being done. So people don't realize how important that sleepy time is, that rest time, whether you lay in your bed and you meditate or you just let your body do nothing but restore and rejuvenate and recuperate. Yeah. And then you just repeat the next day. So I know you're following me.
No, I'm totally, because you're 100% right. And, you know, one of the ways that I learned to deal with, because, you know, the personalities that you're probably dealing with in many cases, especially athletes, are people who are driven, and you got to be able to, and, you know, you have a tendency of wanting to control things that sometimes you can't control. And you're absolutely right. If you don't teach that side of it, it's kind of all for naught. And one of the things I had to learn, teach myself, because I'm my own best advocate, but my own worst enemy, because of my mindset overrides what my body is telling me. You got intuition, and that stuff that your body's always communicating to you. And I think a lot of us do that, and we blow it off. And it's hurt me at times, you know, because the body's trying to shut me down, and I'm overriding that. But one of the ways that I learned how to deal with this after I had my strokes, that was definitely a life-changing moment, because I'm not that person that can, after that, be worried about, you know, I can't be worried if I'm going to get stressed out if I'm going to have another stroke again. I can't do that, because I'd be in more of a prison, you know, that if I you know, gave into that. So I thought, how can I overcome that? I love my work. I want to be active. I want to be, you know, into stuff. And with that comes stress. So the key is this, and I think you're hitting on it, because one of the main questions I asked you in the beginning was, how long do you train your people? The fact that you're in the water for 20 to 30 minutes, you're not overtraining the physiology. It's virtually impossible for that to happen. So what I had to learn how to do with me was, I had to learn how to compartmentalize my life. And it's all the things that you're talking about. I had to learn how to compartmentalize my training. I had to learn how to compartmentalize my stress. I had to have stress in my life. Otherwise, I'd be a freaking zombie. You know, somebody who's just, no, it's true. You know, it's like, just give me the drugs that just keeps me flat, and I don't feel shit. in my life. I didn't want to live like that. So I figured this. I just went back to my training. As long as I don't overtrain the physiology and the mind and the physiology to begin with, I'm going to say that I'm going to be okay because my body's going to adapt to that environment without me chronically overtraining it, which my life at some point was chronically just overtrained in every area of my life. So I figured out that I needed to compartmentalize these areas, give it its due. If I'm stressed out, I give it its due, but I'm only going to stress out about that one thing for 24 hours. I'm going to let it go. I can always come back and revisit that if I really think that I need to. And you know what, Lorelei, for me, just making that little change, and it was hard, but it was a little change. It made the complete difference in my life because, all I can tell you is this, eight years later, I'm based on stats. I'm as healthy as a horse. I recovered, but that wasn't going to happen unless I made those changes in my life. And I think that's probably some of the challenges that you're dealing with some of the people that you're working with.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. It's funny because I have clients and they say, you're like a pastor and you're a guru and you're my counselor. It's like all rolled up into one.
Yeah.
Because there's some days when, and I ask for at times divine intervention, and I ask for just, in all humbleness, because we have to be humble. And there's times when I just have to more or less go for my gut. I'll get somebody who'll come to me that's got some really abnormal but quite severe issues going on, and where their doctors have thrown their hands up and all they're doing is just throwing drugs and prescriptions at them.
Right.
And so I've just got to get in there and says, okay, this is what my gut is telling me we need to do. But the entire time I'm asking my client, how is this feeling? How do you feel?
Right.
How is it working? And as long as, and sometimes, Mike Sable said it, and I'm trying to think, it's one of my favorite quotes. It's like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
I like it.
But yeah, it's funny because I had a lady that she saw me working with other women, and she was with a trainer that cost less money, and she went back to management and said, I want to train with her. And they're going, well, I'm double the money, but she came on to me and said she trained less during the week so she could afford me. But I come over to her and it's like for 2 years, Leo, this woman has been using her cane on the wrong leg. She's overweight and has a bad knee. Using her cane on the wrong leg. This is a woman that somebody just overlooked and ignored. Yeah. And whether it's because she was obese or whether for whatever reason she was quiet, they didn't really look at her and see. And that's what people need to do more of. When you're in the water makes you very aware of your body. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like to climb in a bathtub or a pool or jacuzzi or a lake? I do. I've got a complete workout where I've been at the lake with friends and I'll put on an aqua jogger, put on my gear, and I'll plop in the lake. And while everybody's having coffee and croissants, and I'll crank out a 20-minute workout. Yeah. And then I'll eat everybody and still be in a smaller bathing suit. There you go.
There you have it in a nutshell.
Yeah, there you go. They go, how can you eat like that? Because I joke around. I always go, if you take me out to eat, I will embarrass you. Because especially after I work out, I do eat pretty good, but I eat smart. I mean, not saying I don't have my other days. Mike Sable taught me the importance of having those junk days. Yeah. And I could tell you some stories. We could fill a whole afternoon with some of my stories with Mike and our junk days, because when we had our day off to eat and drink whatever we wanted to, we were just, oh my goodness, it was great. Mud pie for breakfast.
I have news for you. I still do that. That is a part of my life to this day because of what you said. It's important to have those days. Now the difference is with most people, they turn those days into months, and that's where they get up. But I have every weekend are my cheat days. I've been doing that forever. But during the
Yeah,
week,
me too.
there's that balance there. And one of the things that you mentioned, and I think it's a real tough thing to do because it's so counterintuitive, is to trust your gut and trust your intuition. And I think that I think one of the biggest, I think this technology that you're talking about is amazing, and I'd like to talk to you more about that. But I think one of the biggest things that you bring to your clientele is the knowledge that you have, and the ability to say, look, I know that you think that this is normal, but what I'm going to tell you is what you have to trust, because people get used to new normals. Athletes all the time develop bad habits and they become the new normal. And to do things especially, for me, the athletes were always the biggest challenges, because they were athletes and they, at some point, they just thought they knew their body better than anybody else did, especially a damn trainer. And to be able to communicate that to an athlete or just one of your clients, and to be able to say, look, I know it sounds and it feels counterintuitive, but you got to go this direction. That's a damn hard thing to do. But that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you legit in my mind. You know what the hell you're doing. I want to come to you. That's just how I feel about this. And I get this out of this conversation.
Thank you. Well, you are going to come to me one of these days, or I'll have to track your butt down.
Okay, we'll see how that works out.
It's like when I went to UNLV, they were saying, yeah, they were at UNLV. One of my clients wanted me to work there, and she kept promoting it. They go, oh, we've never had an aquatic program take off. She goes, you haven't met Lorelei. You haven't met Lorelei. Yeah. In fact, I ended up with a full-page cover story about me in the Las Vegas Review Journal, where people were just blown away. They're going, this woman, it's amazing, this following, and we called it the Baggy Bottoms Club, because if you came and did a class, you had to buy a new bathing suit. And that's always my challenge as to new people. I go, I want you to buy 3 new bathing suits, each a size down, because you're not going to wear out the bathing suit.
Yeah.
And literally, if you apply yourself, and they go in there and I go, you do the work and you just follow along with me, even if you don't really change your eating habits that much, which you'll get better if you do, because there's a reason you got into the current predicament you're in, your body is still going to benefit from just getting out there with better circulation, better oxygenation, better blood flow, and let's all agree is having that break from gravity.
Yeah.
You get that break from gravity, and it's like your body is rebaptized, you're reborn, you feel refreshed. And that's what everybody says to me after one session. They're like, I've never felt this charged up. Well, part of that is the oxygenation in your blood. It's all based on science. It's no little magic wand I'm waving. What do people say when they get that fresh oxygen from, the hospital? They go, wow, I could really breathe.
Yeah, it's a natural joke. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. It's a real natural. Well, you don't get that on land, period. You don't get that on land. And I was
going to say, go ahead and finish your thought. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I just looked up at the time. God, Leo, time just flies when you're having fun.
It flies when you're having a great time. Listen, this interview has been very informative. And so why don't you do this, Lorelei? If you'd like to promote your product on this interview, why don't you go ahead and tell us where we can find you, or if there's anything you'd like to promote, now's a good time to do that.
Oh, well, thank you. You can find me on www.aqua-tone.com, and that's AQUA-TONE.com. I'm also right now, we're just finishing up with some videos that are basically 1.5 minute clips, and they're meant for any personal trainer, or even if you as an individual. The highest number of people getting their personal training certificates, Leo, right now, are people that just want to learn because they're sick and tired of all the fake trainers out there.
Yeah, I get it.
So there's a lot of individuals that are getting certified and going through the process just because they want to learn properly. They don't want some Joe Schmo that's feeding them a line of cardboard.
Yeah.
And so I am going to be offering online video training, but if you want better certifications, I will be doing in-person training at different locations that you can fly into and catch some live training with me. I do have my aqua joggers out, and we will be doing a pre-sales on the bells very soon. So if you reach out to me online, shoot me out an email or a text or a phone call and get on the waiting list. Our pre-sales are going to be amazing. I'm so excited to be relaunching this product, which are right now you'll see on my website, the yellow bells. We're going to be launching them in a flat black, so they'll look just like the dumbbells with my signature seahorse, which is like the Trojan horse.
Oh, nice.
Spartacus looking guy. Yeah. Because it's all about horsepower, and it's all about, he's got a kind of a dragonish, and that's with the martial arts tone. So you'll see where I've got more of a dragon, martial arts, Trojan, gladiator sort of look. Because that's what it's going to take, is you've got to be your own gladiator. You've got to be your own water warrior. And with that being said, you can work out so hard. And this is a fear not, fearless, wicked water workout that is going to guarantee you results beyond your wildest dreams. And not to sound cliche, but I guarantee it.
That is a good note to end on. Sign me up. Hey, listen, before I come down and get in the water with you, I'm going to have an arm wrestling match on the land. You understand what I'm saying?
Can it be leg wrestling?
I don't give a damn. I just don't want it to be in the water.
Yeah.
Not until I get in better water shape.
Well, if we arm wrestle, I cheat, right?
I don't care. I just don't want to be in the water at first. I'll get my ass kicked.
That's
I'm very insecure about that. Can you tell?
All these great big guys are like, gosh, Lorelei. But see, what's really great is the stronger that you are, the harder that you push through that water.
Yeah. And the more tired I'm going to get. See, like I said, I want to be on land first.
Oh, yeah, because on land, you could take breaks. See, on land,
yes.
You lift it, and then you got to go to the next machine, and it's like, oh, no. I make you go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next.
No, I'm not stupid. I want to create the competitive edge. I'm very competitive, so don't let this gray hair fool you.
Hey, well, I'm going gray, too. But, in fact, I had a company that, because I was dyeing my hair, and they said, Lorelei, in fact, I'm looking for products to endorse. So if you have any people out there that are wanting a face and a body to fully endorse their products, of course, I got to love their products and use them. But I am looking for a line of products to endorse, to put into my beauty box by Lorelei. That's kind of like the mermaid in my treasure chest. So I am looking at collecting a bunch of treasure chest items that are go-tos for better health and wellness. So once again, reach out to me on that. But no, it's you definitely try this, and you're not going to want to be without it. But they told me, let's let your hair grow out. So I do right now. I'm sporting a little bit of gray, and I'm liking it. My clients are loving it. They say it looks great. And
all you have to do is own it, and you're owning it. I can tell you're owning everything. Listen, I wanted to thank you very much for coming on the show. I learned a lot of stuff, and I'm sure the people that were listening did too. You have a way of explaining things that makes sense as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate that, and I know the viewers will. So one of these days, seriously, I'd like to get down once this all the stuff that our world's going through right now clears up. I'd like to come down and see it firsthand.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Listen, it was nice talking to you, and be safe and be healthy. Okay.
It's been a pleasure, and bless you. You've done a great job here.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Be safe. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.